All right, we are going to start, and I will be calling on our host, my boss, and our CEO. We call him Jam.
Hey,
So,
buddy, how you doing now?
hi, Jam. Yeah, I'm doing very well. So, welcome, Jam. Jam will be taking us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Let me do like a quick intro, then share with everybody. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Okay, you guys can see me. Just checking. Oh, good. Good. So today is I'm going to try and keep this very interesting because today, last week we talked about resorts. Today we are talking about airports. And I think that after today's conversation, do you look at airports differently? I think we should talk about seaports next. The economics of seaports are probably why, if you check different locations across the globe, you're able to figure out why there is a ton of economic boom near seaports, like a ton of it. Like there is literally a math around. If you chart every single seaport across the globe there, you would see that those areas are economic hubs. So it's quite interesting. Maybe we can talk about seaports. But today we're going to talk about airports, right? And we can move from there very quickly. Let me see if I can share my screen. Can you see this? Just checking.
Yes, I can. Yes, we
Ah,
all can.
fantastic. Great. Okay. The first thing I need to start with is introduction because I know that some people might be new. So this might be someone's first home circle. What the hell is a home circle? So I think we'll be able to describe that before we delve into the topic. The first is my name is Agolana Jose Maria Michael. I am the co-founder and CEO of Keble. We've been around for 7 years. We've had a portfolio of over 2 billion at this point. We've helped over 30,000 customers invest in real estate, and we are opening up global opportunities for people to invest in properties in Nigeria, in Dubai, in the US, and in the UK. The reason why we have sessions like this, I think foundational conversations around real estate are not, had as much, and allowing our expertise to show in this forum actually helps people to understand, one, how we think about property and how you should think about property, right? Because a lot of people are either first-time investors or they just invest in real estate because it's very physical, it's safe to invest, but they don't understand the nitty-gritties around those conversations. We tend to stick with a lot of the fundamentals when it comes to investing. The legal stuff is left for lawyers, as much as you can. Always involve your lawyers, have them scrutinize the deals, and that is important. That's an important aspect of what we do in Keble. But I've seen deals that are so fantastic, the lawyers are given a check mark and they are not profitable, right? So I think having a conversation whereby individuals understand the foundation of how a deal is structured, how a location works, what is creating some level of economic prosperity around a particular location is very important. These are why we have conversations like this, right? So the other thing is, if you have questions around Keble, this is the best place to ask it. You're going to be hearing from the horse's mouth himself. So I think that will help to clarify a ton of things. All good? Now, the contract in most of these our conversations is that we typically have a presentation or a slide so we can walk through it. I walk through it very quickly so that you don't get too bored. And I pinpoint certain things that are helpful so that everybody gets the core overview of what we're looking out for. All good? Fantastic. All right. So today we are talking about what we call the airport effect, right? When we're thinking about this topic, we have a particular property in mind, which is Aviation City. However, we started digging through there are airports everywhere, right? I'm sure you can use this for every single airport in the world. Does that make sense? Like if you zoom out across board, I'm sure you can say, hey, I can use this for Ikeja Airport. I can use this for, there's a second airport coming in Lagos around the axis. I can use that there. Every single airport globally, right? You can use this framework to invest in that location. So it's not particularly unique to what we are going to be, which is Ogun State. It's not particularly unique to this one. However, we wanted to sort of, wrap it in a bow. So we say, okay, this is why we picked here, if that makes sense to you. Yeah. Now, the airport that changed Ikeja. So we're all aware of the airport in Ikeja. And before Ikeja became one of the busiest commercial hubs, its airports and its landfills were there, right? The airport helped to build the infrastructure, right? And that's essentially what led to how Ikeja is essentially one of the economic hubs, commercial hubs. If you think about properties in Ikeja, they are valued on a consistent basis, almost similar to what you would see in Ikoyi, VI, and the likes, right? I've seen properties of that same value exactly at the Ikeja axis, and I think it just shows the level of, again, maturity and level of economic activity happening in that axis. We have this internal joke in Keble where, when you're looking at certain deals in Ikeja, right? Especially when you're looking at shortlets in Ikeja, or you want to invest in a shortlet in Ikeja, one of the things that you always see me ask is, why are you adding another shortlet in Ikeja when there are so many hotels in Ikeja? Like, you're going to be competing with almost every single hotel chain. It's around Ikeja, right? So, and the reason for that is frequent flyers, businesses, conferences, they're all hosted around the axis, right? Now, what you will notice from 1979 till last year is there is a ton of growth that happens over time. So every airport doesn't stay the same. They tend to evolve until they get to a maturity stage, right? So you will see the International Airport Terminal, is opened in 1979. The MM2 is now opened up properly and expanded or strengthened for domestic travel in 2007. As of 2022, a new international terminal is expanded for passenger capacity. So as even in Nigeria, as the population grows, as economies start to expand, you start seeing that airports don't stay small for so long. They tend to expand, and I'll probably explain this expansion when we're talking about Aviation City. And you tend to see that things tend to grow as well as the economy grows, because you have to increase the level of capacity that the airports can handle. Like I said, more flights, right? The more flights a particular airport tends to command, the more you get hotels and shortlet apartments, you get office spaces being set up, you get restaurants and retail, you get warehouses and cargo services, you get transport and logistics, you get housing for airports and linked workers. So you start seeing the thread between what one singular infrastructure project or one singular contribution tends to create a ripple effect across the entire neighborhood, right? So the runway attracted some movement, and movement attracted businesses. And I think that this is the way you should think about it is, even though you can see an airport is coming in, or there is an announcement and there is some allocation of land, you should start looking carefully around, okay, where can I position myself properly in that particular location so that I can be able to benefit from the ripple effect of all of this. Because once an airport is set up, all of this would happen. It's just a matter of time, if that makes sense. Yeah. So what changed in Ikeja? What happened is that as the runways started to mature and the airport started to grow, that airport became a gateway, and that gateway brought in passengers and businesses. Those businesses created jobs, right? And once people have jobs in a particular facility, they start thinking of residential, they start thinking of, do I live close to my job? And you start seeing estates being built. Once estates have started to be being built, you start seeing situations whereby you're creating restaurants, you're creating schools for their children, So you start seeing those ripple effects of one singular infrastructure project, what it can do. So this was very fascinating, right? To even see that, okay, one singular thing can create this domino effect, right? And you see, okay, I have a runway, then I create a runway, brings more passengers. Let's say you start with even local flights, so you can see that people within the nation can move quickly. Then you start seeing that, okay, if I open up international flights, I can now attract way more businesses to it. Okay, from international flights, I can see that people are looking for how to set up businesses here so that they don't get to fly too frequently, right? So they now set up businesses. Okay, you now have to employ people to run those businesses, and you start seeing that, okay, those people have to work. Those people that are working don't like the long commutes to work, so they start thinking of accommodations close to work, right? So I think all of those things tend to grow as you as you see infrastructure, especially with airports, start to expand in capacity. I think the biggest gains are rarely made when the opportunity is obvious. So I will keep saying that Warren Buffett, this huge Warren Buffett quote, which is, you tend to invest when everybody is scared, and or you get greedy when everybody is scared, right? And you get scared when everybody is greedy, So, and in fact, if you study Warren Buffett very carefully, and I mention Warren Buffett a lot because he's arguably one of the, most consistent investor long-term globally, right? One of the things that he would say is, you want to get in, the price of entry is always very important, right? Because you want a situation whereby whenever you're getting, you're not coming in at an overpriced value. And what is overpriced to you might seem very normal for another person, right? But pricing is very important. So that's why you see throughout his career, he didn't touch so much of the tech stock. I think the only stock that he touched was Apple. Recently they started investing, they invested in Google as well. So he rarely touches, very high value stocks, just focuses on things that are, reasonably priced, right? Or even lower than book value price, right? So I think that's very, very important. So when you're thinking about these opportunities, one of the things that you also notice is that when a place is being designated as an airport, you rarely see money move there until something is being built, until something has been established, right? And when you start seeing those things, it just reinforces, okay, why you picked certain locations, right? The pattern behind the Ikeja story. So airports do not create property value in one moment, right? The change happens in stages. So this was a very interesting thing that we noticed, right? There are different stages of how you should look at a particular property, especially when it's designated towards airports, right? So, and it's almost consistent across board. So the first thing is that the market hears about the project. So everybody's like, oh, we've designated, I don't know, like 2,000 acres of land for, an airport project. And that sits there for years, until one government decides to take it up, or one state government decides to take it up. So you hear that first, then the government tends to now define what that project is, right? So is it an international airport? Is it a cargo airport? Is it a local fly airport? They tend to, and they also bring out partnerships. They bid for it, sometimes they don't bid for it, but sometimes they do, right? You start seeing other things like roads and utilities follow. So it's a very gradual process, but you tend to see things already start setting up. Money is already being positioned while people are not aware, then the airport becomes operational, right? Typically, the people that build and buy land early are the core customers of the airport. in every situation that I've seen an airport story, the people that have bought land, they are the core customers of the airports, right? They already know that, okay, do you know what? This is something that I need. I need to position myself in a way that I'm not a tenant in this location, right? So the people that are very close to the airports across every single metric are potentially, will I say, concurrent customers in that particular location. Yeah. So finally, an economic develops around it, right? And you start seeing, again, the ripple effect of what we've mentioned again, like airports, gateway businesses, jobs, residential and the likes. So we divided this into 5 stages, right? And this airport effect tends to, I think, is consistent across board. So you can use that in your analysis to look at why a location makes sense and why it's important for you to be able to pick certain locations because of certain things that you've seen in this presentation, right? And I'll start off with the first one. The first one is announcements. So there's a lot of speculation, right? I'm sure everyone is aware when people were saying, oh, buy land around the Dangote refinery, 2 seconds away from Dangote refinery, 10 minutes away from Dangote refinery. Those are typically, and this was, I don't know, this has been going on for probably 10 years, and now the refinery is on, so it does take time. There is some level of patience that is required to be able to maximize this kind of investments, right? But it starts off with an announcement. So someone comes in and say, okay, do you know what? We're going to build an airport here, right? We don't know when, but we've designated in our urban planning, we've designated this number of plots or this number of acres for this particular use case. So everybody is aware that this portion of land has been designated by the government for airports. Now, what happens is that when people are aware about this portion, they tend to position themselves not very close, because governments can decide that, okay, I want to expand this airport, in a way that can accommodate more growth. Remember that we spoke about capacity. So every single time the airport is actually growing itself, right? So buyers begin entering the area. Sellers increase their asking price. So as the land that overnight, you see a land that was going for, I don't know, 200,000 naira, 500,000 naira, and they typically pick locations that when you see announcements like this, these are not, they are potential locations that would grow over time, but most typically, they're still evolving, right? Instantly you start seeing that, a property that was going for 500,000 is already 1 million. So they increase the price for some reason, because the idea is that the demand is there. You should try and own this place, right? So it makes sense. Now, investors speculate about the future assets and developments. So here you're saying one of the conversations you hear is that it's too far. Like, how many people will use this place? Is it worth our time? Is it worth the investment? Can't we direct some funds to some other, infrastructure projects? Can we build more roads? Is the road even good enough, right? And I think over time, what I have seen is that those questions tend to answer once investments start coming in, roads are being built because investments are coming in, and people get to see that the growth over time is not just an audio conversation, it's more of a physical reinforcement, right? What you must know during this period, you have to confirm the announcement from the official sources. So you want to be sure that the government actually said this, and you're not watching something that is, quote unquote, I say AI generated, or you're not watching something that for some reason is coming from one scam or something. You want to be sure that this is coming from the horse's mouth. So when you heard from Dangote refinery, for example, you want to be sure that, okay, Dangote actually wants to build a refinery there, right? Or the government has actually designated will I say, some area for the project itself. You want to check if this is a fluff. Have they materialized any funding? Are they making any additional efforts aside from the announcements? So those things are additional efforts. Could be just setting up boundaries, right? Is there a specific boundary that they've set up? You want to know if someone else have positioned themselves next. Maybe they're closer to the government, so they've positioned themselves very close. You want to get some idea of how that is going on at that point in time. So I would not advise people to buy based on rumors, based on speculation. So this is just a way for you to pique your interest, if that makes sense. So you know how you favorite something on social media, you just like something or you save it just for, okay, later I need to pay attention. This seems interesting. I need to pay attention to it, right? That's typically how you should look at this stage one, right? This is something to pay attention to. Stage two, so it's planning and approval. So when the government has actually approved that place, right, it becomes more real, so you can see the airport sites, you can see the runway, and like they've defined what this should look like, right? That is where you start seeing, that's where, okay, it becomes less of an audio conversation and more of a physical conversation, more of a tangible conversation that you can hold on to, right? So you start seeing supporting road infrastructure, so roads leading there, right? You start seeing some coordination with developers. I like going to areas where developers are already setting up. Once you see 4, 5, 6 developers in a particular location, you know that, okay, the government has created some level of incentive for that to happen, right? And that is continuous, So I think that is an interesting thing for everyone, that if you're the only one doing estates in that particular lane, anything happens, you're the only person that will bear it, So you want a situation whereby you're not the only one, you're also part and parcel of the ecosystem that is driving the development across board. One thing I will also let people know is that when you're in this stage, you do not want to be so close to the airport, right? So you don't want to be, I don't know, 5 minutes away from the airport, right? Because you don't know if, especially at the planning and approval stage, you're not so sure of how the area can expand within that region. So I tend to lean more on the safer side to say, okay, you want to be, at least at this stage, you want to be 20 minutes away, you want to be 30 minutes away. That creates some level of buffer, and you can still experience a good chunk of captured appreciation when the area is functional, but you also experience some level of safety net as well, right? Stage 3, construction, right? Construction. So here you're seeing things are actually being built, right? You're seeing contractors are coming in, you're seeing warehouses, you're seeing suppliers, you're seeing actual progress, right? Here, this is not just a situation whereby they're in the planning and approval phase. Things are actually happening. You can go there and see for yourself that the government has put in a lot of efforts to create access roads. You can see businesses acquiring, so you can see companies acquiring land in that location. You can see estates being built. These are all adding to the progress of that particular airport. One of the things I noticed, we'll talk about aviation in a bit, but one of the things I noticed personally is that the Chinese, essentially, if you speak to anyone around the community, the Chinese are the core landlords in that community. They are buying a ton of land in that community because that airport is essentially, a cargo airport. There are over how many businesses are set up in Ogun State. So it can literally transport their items from point A to point B, and they see that as a unique advantage to cut costs. So they are buying a bunch of land, Yeah, so opening and activation. So this is where, You bring in the president, you shake hands, you inaugurate the entire place, and you start seeing movement. So you start seeing the first set of flights coming and out. Typically, they start off with maybe 2 flights in a day. Sometimes you start seeing 10 flights in a week. But over time, as people get to experience the, what do you call it, the airline or the airports, and it becomes more common, it becomes more popular, people tend to use it a bit more, right? And this is maturity stage. So maturity is essentially where everything, you've gotten a standard airport. It moves across different regions every single day. Multiple airlines are using it as a gateway towards multiple countries. So you're getting to the point where I think this is where Ikeja is at this point. Things are a bit more clearer, things are planned out, where you can, if a land is 5 minutes next to the international airports, you can actually buy. Obviously it's priced way higher, because that person took a risk to get that 5 minutes plot of land. So you get to see that there is some level of understanding of how the market is, and everybody understands how to price it properly. So, like I said, the window for investing it's really around stage 2 to stage 4. It doesn't mean that you can't get in stage 5. It's just that once you're in stage 5, the market has priced in properly. In fact, like I said, you're not early anymore, right? So there's some level of underlying reduction in terms of risk, added to it. So you're not experiencing any huge capital appreciation, but you just understand that, okay, the market is what it is at this point in time. So if you're a speculative person, you're thinking of capital appreciation, you're thinking of land banking, you're thinking of potentials, stage 2 to stage 4, that's, I call it the sweet spots when it comes to buying next to the airport location, right? Now, we're in Ogun State. Say we're in Ogun State, obviously. So Ogun State is no longer just near Lagos. I think the notion that we used to have is, okay, there's this spillover effect that is happening from Lagos to Ogun State. However, I think that there is a lot more there's a lot more nuance to that, because even Ogun State is on its own an economic hub. There are a lot of industrial firms there. We already have the Lagos-Ibadan rail that still connects Lagos to Abeokuta. Now we have an airport, and you can see that they are it's very it's positioned well, right? We call it, you can see there's cargo because of the industrial nature of the state itself, right? And the kind of people that are using the airports on a day-to-day basis to transport their goods and services. So there's a lot of value from that state in itself, and I think that that's valuable. And you can see it. You can see it across board. You can see it in Mowe. You can see it in Ibafo. You can see it in Fada. So you can see that when it comes to the growth corridors, when it comes to the areas that are not just in Lagos, that are in neighboring states, you get to see that value is being created across board, right? And I think we had a project here as well. So for people that bought into, I think Woodgate Prime should probably relaunch again next week. But it's interesting that this is also a location that we saw price hike from 600,000 to 2.5 million, right? So this is happening consistently, So why does the airport corridor matter? Like, why is it important? Why are we talking about it? The Gateway International Airport has moved beyond announcements. So right now we are not taking risk again. Like we have, this is a fully operational airport. This airport can carry you from Ogun State to Lagos to Abuja, right? So people are flying this airport, are using this airport on a daily basis, right? Cargo operations were announced in February 2026. The airport was officially commissioned in April. So again, it's a new airport, right? But it's fully operational, right? And like I said, it is positioned for the people that use the airport, right? So the airport is positioned to support trade, logistic, and regional connectivity, right? Very structured for the state itself and the value that the state provides, right? Obviously, we have Aviation City. This is the whole aim of the city is to live up to the demand of the state itself and allow people to make use of, the city itself, right? Now, let me give you a typical example. It's under 2,000 acres worth of land. For context, that is over 10,000 plots of land. It's a lot of land, right? And when you think of 10,000 plots of land, it's a huge project, it's a long-term project. It's something that everyone, if you key into it, there's some long-term benefit around it. It's literally directly behind the international airport. So this property can be used for residential, for commercial, for industrial, and for logistics use. The timeline between the airport and this location is roughly 20-25 minutes at this point. And I think there is a huge benefit when it comes to you thinking around what are the spillover effects from the infrastructure that the airport itself can yield to this city. So why did we pick this option? I think the first thing is, again, 15-20 minutes from the airport, depending on how fast you're driving. This 15 minutes seems like you're probably driving very fast, but it's very well placed. 20 minutes from Babcock University. From Ikeja, it took us like an hour, 30 minutes to get there, from Lagos to the city. So not too shabby at all, right? The road is fantastic. The road network is clean. No issues there. And we even went when it was raining. So wanted to make sure that you go where the worst possible time to even visit the site is when it's raining, to be honest. But you could see that the road connectivity was good. The lane, the access, the industry, you can see that even on that day, we have a video, I think you can share the video on YouTube. Even the airport was functional as well on that day as well. So a lot of things that is of value if you're thinking of buying into a particular location that provides some level of value when it comes to airport spillovers. I think this is a good city to own. In typical Keble fashion, we have all the options available. We have a flexible 6-month plan and we have a flexible 12-month plan. And you can decide what payment plan you want. If you want to pay outright, fantastic. If you want to spread your payments, fantastic. Right now, I don't think the developer is marketing 300 or 500 square meters. That is something that is a Keble design. And the reason why that is the case is because we wanted more people to get access to it. So as much access as we can create for people, that is the goal, right? So we've deliberately created a payment plan that creates some level of added flexibility for everybody to participate across board, right? And I think this is live on the platform. Yeah, so I think we have a Google form, right? Francis, you can probably step in to be sure. You can fill in the form to see which option you're most suited for. If this is something you're interested in, someone can be able to reach out to you. One of the partners can reach out to you and sort of break that down a little bit more, provide you with some additional context. You can ask your personal questions. Is this a right fit for, I know someone that bought for her daughter, or someone that is buying for land banking, but this is like a long-term kind of view when you're thinking of a particular location when it comes to property ownership. So if you're if you're interested, Francis, has the form been placed in the chat? Just checking.
Yes.
That they
Yeah,
can
the
help.
form is there.
Okay, great. So I'll just give like roughly maybe 2 minutes to that while I continue from here. So key takeaways, what you should live with today, right? Infrastructure creates movement, right? You are not the government, and the government has its own responsibility. Every single thing that we've been mentioning throughout this month has been around leveraging what the government has provided. And that's why, like, I'm a big fan of, I think the government has a huge role to play when it comes to how your assets are being valued. The reason why we can have a resort location is because there is a train station that moves over 5,000 people every single week through that access. Now, there is no way we would do that if we do not have some strong connection that brings people in. Does that make sense? So the reason why land value grows is that it leverages credible planning, right? Even the airports that is being built around the axis, right? There was I think we visited a site, a plot of land is going for roughly $200,000. I don't know if anyone is aware of Alaro City, right? Alaro City is in the Lekki Free Trade Zone. And a plot of land going for $200,000 is a lot of money, but it comes with a lot of perks, right? Industries are already set up there, right? People are already living there, right? Movement is already happening because people understand the infrastructure that is being built there, right? Now, the third thing is that proximity alone is not enough, right? You want to have some level of access. You want to have verified documentation, suitable zoning, right? Before we even introduce this on the platform, we had to make sure that the government has done proper zoning and approvals for the land itself to allow us to provide this for customers to buy into it, right? So there is no encroachment issue, just clear economic use for people that are interested in buying the assets. I think that just like Lagos is a commercial hub, I think Ogun State is an industrial hub. I think industries are important for economic activity and economic growth, right? And as more people are migrating, people are going to have to figure out places to pick or as a point of residency, right? So I think that the rails, the road, the infrastructure, the airports are all reinforcing the market itself as an opportunity, right? The other thing, have you noticed that we talked about the airport effect? We didn't talk about the airports, right? It's not really about the airport, right? The airport is the driver, right, of what would drive more value for you as an owner, right? So, like I mentioned, it's a gateway to businesses, it's a gateway to opportunities, it's a gateway for transactions to happen. And as transactions happen, as things start to set up, people start to demand things, right? So jobs are being set up, rent is needed. So you tend to build more houses, you tend to build more estates, right? And as you're building more estates, you're not building it in isolation. You have to think of recreation activities, you have to think of schools, right? All of that creates an ecosystem of opportunities, right? And that's where land is in. The way I think of land is it's literally you create your world, you're in charge of creating an understanding of what your world should look like, if that makes sense to you. So I think that there is core value in that, as you go along. And thank you so much. I know that. Oh, okay. Is it 747? That's good. I know that some people might have questions. Please, if you have questions, you can raise your hands, you can type it, I'll be able to answer you. And also, please, if you're interested, you can fill the form and make sure that whichever options that suits you best, we'll be able to reach out to you in due time. Thank you so much. Nadi?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jam. Thank you. That was really, really, really in depth. and enlightening. Thank you so much. So we have a question here, and I just want to say that you can always drop a question even in the course of the meeting. And if you'd like to, you don't want to type, but you want to say your question out, please signify with just signify so that I will call you. So I'll be reading out the question by Abolore Salami.
Hey.
Did I murder your name?
Hope you didn't murder his name.
No, I'm sure. You're a bad girl, but I am.
No, you didn't.
All right,
so it
says. Thank you, thank you. So it says that how is the flexible payment structured? That's one. Two, any plans on land paper perfection and property protection?
Sure.
And the third one, how about the Olokola deep sea port being worked on by Dangote? Any plans from Keble on that? For your information, I'm very interested in this because this is in my father's hometown of Ogun Waterside. Hello, Ogun. Hello, Ogun. All right, that's the question.
Yes. So in terms of the flexible payments, we typically tend to have a payment plan for 6 months to 12 months. I think we can essentially share that here. Let me see if we can draw that real quick. I can't. Real quick here. Let's see. Okay. So the way the payment plan works is you do not have to make huge down payments. You're essentially making an even payment from month one, right? So if it's a 6 months plan, you essentially pay the same amount throughout the 6 months. And the pricing you're paying or the amount you're paying is all inclusive. So that covers for the deed of assignment, it covers for the contract of sale, it covers for the allocation documents across board. So whenever you're buying land on Keble, I think typically we tend to bundle everything together so that you're not surprised, 2 months down the line that you have like an expected 500K that you have to pay at the end of the day. So I think that's fixed on that front. I'm trying to figure out the pricing. Let me see.
Okay.
So I'm able to find that.
Did we get that? It's all inclusive. Like once you pay, everything is in there, all the documents. I'm sure Jam already said that.
Yeah.
I just want to.
Let me try and share this.
Okay. Yeah. Well, since we can unmute, I wanted to say that's very important because I have 2 land documents right now. One is in Mowe, 1 plot, but significant. I don't know what it will be valued at now. I think it was ₦1 million 7-8 years ago or 10 years ago when we bought it. Yeah. I honestly don't know where the documents are. Honestly don't know. But thanks to Keble now, hopefully, if only you guys can go help me track down that land and put it on the Keble platform so I can just see it on the app. Yes. Another is I think a 12 plots somewhere in Ogun State as well. Also just difficult to track down these things and figure out how to, continue to manage. Like, there's no documentation beyond, I bought the land, I have the receipt or whatever. Or I know the owner, I can call him on the phone. So, which also then leads to the protection part. It's okay, if the papers are perfected and covered, what do I have to do to get that? And how do I then track that, going forward long term? Not to go and get into a landlord dispute, someone saying, no, this is my land. No, this part is my own. This part, no, they didn't measure your own well, all of those type of things. So those are just kind of like the concerns I think will be helpful if you address. And hello to you guys, Ose and the rest of the team. Hi, Shito. Well done, guys.
Thank you, Salami.
Thank you.
I think that's very valid. The idea for us generally, and a customer has actually pointed this out for us, that, I have land scattered everywhere, right? How can I sort of track everything in a singular place and allow myself to sell it if I want to sell it, or at least just know the current value as of today, and have the documents, in one singular place that I can track. And I think that that's valuable. The one of the things that, just on that note, one of the things that we do really well with all of the locations that we have is when you buy through Keble, it's consolidated as a Keble portion. So if you think about it like this, typically the average acquisition that we are buying is probably close to 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 square meters, right? Instead of you buying 300 square meters and you're somewhere in one extreme portion of the estate, right? Because like, oh, you're a 300 square meter person, you're sort of protected because it's coming through Keble as a corporate entity, and you're sharing from that piece of pie itself. So a typical situation is that, hey, Keble has 10,000 square meters in this axis. It has been allocated for Keble customers, right? It's quite difficult to play with that level of growth in that or that particular size in that particular estate, right? And I think that that's valuable, right? What we see is that people are not being protected when they buy some of these estates. Someone can buy 300 square meters, someone can buy 150 square meter, someone can buy 500 square meter, and they're like, oh, it's just one plot now. But it's quite difficult to move people around when it's over 2,000 square meters, over 10,000 square meters from that standpoint. So I think that protection from a corporate standpoint helps individuals that are buying across board. I think one developer put it this way, that it's helpful that, okay, there is some corporate entity or corporate body that allows for protection and allows everybody to track it. It's also easier for us to track because we know that, okay, this 10,000 square meters, maybe, I don't know, 20 people, 30 people have bought into it, and it's easier to manage, price, and resell. So everything is consolidated in a way that manages or keeps everybody in a protected format. So I just wanted to point that out. Across all our land formats, that is the structure that has worked best for us. Okay. On the pricing itself, as you can see, like there's the outright price, then there is the monthly price. It's typically the same thing, right, across board.
Sorry,
yes.
apologies, Ose, just before you go too far, just for the protection, I'm also thinking about is there going to be things like fencing of the entire, is it like an estate structure? Is there going to be land apportionment? Is there some preliminary development? Any of those things happening? Or if that's going to happen later on, it would just be good to know.
Yes. From the first set, there's just going to be fencing around the estate itself, right? So that's the core thing. For the other protection, right? So like, okay, construction, that's going to be further down, on that front. So the way I look at this estate is a much more long-term hold, land banking structure. I think over time, as the communities start to evolve, then you can start thinking of putting additional structures to it, right? The good thing is that for us, if you're buying through it, we tend to monitor that growth, and we can introduce certain things into it. For example, we can introduce maybe JV partnerships to the land itself so that, you can optimize on that front in terms, let's say you want to build a couple of units for residents, that can be explored for all the owners that bought into the land. We can explore resale value as well. So those things are baked in. But for now, I think it's just preliminary fencing to just protect the overall estate itself. That's the core thing that we're focused on at the moment. Okay. All right. Hope that answers.
Yes, it does. You gave a thumbs up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the pricing.
Yeah, so on the pricing is pretty standard. I think we don't have to draw too much here, but what I want to focus on is, there are just two standard pricings or three standard pricing: the outright, the monthly, 6 months, and the 12 months pricing. And you can spread the payments for in an equal basis, and this is all encompassing. So this covers everything that you need on that front. Okay, just let me.
And there's no premium if you're paying, like if you pay once, it's the same amount split over 6 months, or same amount split over 12 months.
If you pay once, it's slightly lower. So
okay,
the price, then there's a premium when you pay for 6 months, and there's obviously higher premium when you pay for 12 months. So
understood. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, on
All
the perfection side, I think this is a situation where we want to think around it very carefully. Right now, in terms of documentation, what you're getting is a deed of assignment. You're also getting a contract of sale, and you're also getting what we call an allocation document. The allocation document is essentially showing you like, okay, this is the portion of the land itself that is being apportioned to you. And that is, I say, the area where you can decide to build on, you can resell and the likes, right? What we are planning on is if there is any need for perfection, that is, additional cost on its own. So individuals that bought in larger stakes can decide that, hey, I want to get a governor's consent on this land, that would certify that perfection side of it in terms of land papers that is available. What we went ahead to do on our end is to get proper documentation on if there are any encroachments, legal issues on the land. We got a certified document that proves that, okay, there are no legal issues, there are no encumbrance in this area, and this area is free from any legal battles that you can, face. So I think that document is what we worked on from our legal side. But if you want to go ahead to perfect it, that is something that we can help on our end to facilitate. In terms of the deep sea ports, we've not actually discussed this. It's something that we've kept a pin on that side, but it's something that obviously is quite interesting at the moment. You can see that as infrastructure comes in, we tend to we're usually in phase 3 side. When we are sure that okay, things are a bit functional. It's easier for people to, the time we went to the aviation city, I think 3 weeks ago. It's probably more. That is, it's more big. And the first thing that we went to see was the airport. And we took some clients there. Okay, we went to see the airport side. And they could see that, okay, this is functional. This is a place that they're not like, we're not living in like a dreamland or anything, not a pipe dream. Something is actually working here. The cargo airport is there. People were booking flights, to Lagos the next day. So I think that is more concrete to hold, and you can see people, plan for that option there. And it's even nice that, you're very familiar with the area. So thank you so much. Lady.
All right, thank you for that, and thank you for your question. So I'll quickly read Olade's question. How protected, I believe this has been answered, but then I'm still going to read out the question. Yeah. How protected are the land for those interested in long-term investments? Because you buy now, but may not be sure the land, but you may not use the land for a while. So he's asking a question about long-term.
Yeah, I think I've answered the protection side. What I would speak to is on the use case of long-term, right? Long-term investments. The reason why this is important is that if you notice, most people, when they buy land, typically it's, for instance, my family, we own land and we've probably owned it for probably 20 plus years. Huge land. We're not using it for anything. I keep looking at that land and we keep thinking, what are we going to use this land for, right? But the value has essentially gone up over time, and that is its value on its own. Now, we've been priced on that land multiple times in different seasons. So someone wanted to build a school, someone wanted to build, a hospital, someone wanted to build a residential units in that area, and I think what is helpful across board is you want a partner that can be able to broker certain deals for you, right, in that situation. So when you buy land through Keble, one of the things that we tend to do, and that we've continuously done, is that we don't think about you just buying it. We think about the process of you exiting it as well. Whenever you think of you're buying, I've met people since last year, since we started selling, landed assets. The biggest problem for most people is when it comes to selling. Okay, now I've held this land for 5 years. What next? And I think that when you have a partner that is also involved or has a stake or has some understanding of, okay, this is not just you buying it, it's actually you exiting it, or it's actually you getting some economic benefits from whether it's a JV project or whether it's a resale. That partnership is really important, right? And it's not a situation whereby you're buying land and you're forgetting that you bought land, or you're forgetting that the documents are somewhere else, or you don't even know the current value of the land as of when you want to sell it, right? I think this is helpful because here you're able to know, okay, this is how much the land is valued. These are the new developments in the area. Sorry. These are the new developments in the area. If I decide to sell it off now, right, this is a good price point that makes sense. And if there are opportunities that can lead to not just selling them, but some long-term investments on that front, maybe it could be some developments that make sense, you're also positioned to benefit from those developments, will provide those opportunities to you as well. So I think that those are the benefits that we tend to aggregate and consolidate for the customers that buy into assets like this.
Thank you, Jam. I believe that answers your question. Please give a thumbs up so I can be sure. Thank you. So the last question here is, I believe the last question, can I invest monthly on the app?
Yes. I think can you invest monthly on the app? Yes, you can invest monthly on the app. The whole app is actually meant for you to buy this without stressing yourself, right? I think that one of the core premise of this whole thing was that we experienced one. I think there was time we wanted to buy land, and someone was saying that you have to pay in 6 months. You have to pay you have to put down payment of 20%, right? And it just felt a lot at that point in time. So one of the things that we tend to do is to say, you don't have to break the bank. You can pay on a monthly basis. And some of our partners, all the developers that we're working with, have essentially changed their tone because we've worked with them for this long, and they're even creating that pricing for their own customers if they choose to. So I think that on a cultural basis, this is something that is helpful for everybody, right? You do not have to break the bank to buy into a particular place. So there is some level of ease when you're paying. Obviously, I was speaking to a customer last week. He said, I'm a business person. My money doesn't come in monthly. Is as it comes like this, I just top it up. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like it's easier if you don't earn a salary, right? And you have projects and something just clicks, you can pay off in 3 months. So that's fine. You can easily top up your assets and pay it off. Something that you plan for 6 months, pay it up in 5 months, pay it up in 3 months, and it's easier for you on that front. So I think that the flexibility is there for you if you choose to pick it. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jan. I believe that's all the question. Do we have anyone who wants to ask the question, but doesn't want to type or just say it out? Please let me know before I call it. Before I close the question and answer session. Do we have anyone? So I believe we've answered the question on the documentation. We said that once you buy from us on the app, the documentation is inclusive. You're not paying any extra fee for the land you bought. Everything is inclusive. I just have to emphasize that. And we said that you can buy the land for long term. It's protected. Don't worry, once you buy with us, like we fence it around the whole estate. Like that flexibility, that structure is just amazing. Then we told you also that you can spread your payments. You can pay outright. You can spread it for up to 12 months if you want to spread your payments, if you're like me. Also, another perk is that you buy on the app. You can monitor it. You can see when you've paid. You can see how the progression. And also, you can always reach out to us on the app. You see, call us, chat us, any one of those that you like. Also, your documents. I think Abalare said something about his documents missing. You get your documents, e-copy, you upload it on a drive. Also, maybe when you find the document, just snap and upload it on Google Drive, so it will be safer. All right, Jam, that's all the questions that I have that we have for you. Don't know if you want to say anything before I wrap up the
Yeah,
session.
I'm good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone that came out today to listen. We tend to break this down so that everybody gets an opportunity to understand what we do clearly and ask as much questions as possible. So the community link, I think, is on the chat. So if you've not joined the community, that's where we send as much information as possible. We also have dedicated partners that if you want certain information about your own portfolio, you can reach out to them. So I think that number is there. A partner is someone that is dedicated to you, so you can reach out to them as much as you like. They're there to take as much complaints. If there's a complaint, no problem. If it's to help you process something, no problem. And again, the whole premise of this event is to create some level of clarity, and I'm happy that that was accomplished. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Ladi.
All right, thank you, Jam. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your questions, and thank you all for listening to the end.